Germany is electing a new government, finally, after the old government broke apart months ago. Usually, the result of our elections is pretty obvious, but not this time. This election is the most important in German history, because we are on the brink of collapse and need to be saved. We compared the programs of all 7 parties that could be voted into government to predict what's gonna happen here in Germany, no matter which coalition will be voted into power. And we focused on these 4 topics that are probably most interesting for you. Because our economy is shrinking for the 2nd year in a row, for the very first time in 2 decades, this is arguably the most important topic. The most interesting topic for you expats, however, will be foreign policy. What's the plan for legal immigration and what's the plan for illegal immigration? Followed by domestic policy. With tragedies like these skyrocketing here in Germany, what could each coalition do to restore inner security? And of course, because PERFINEX stands for Personal Finance for Expats, what about taxes, investment benefits, health insurance, and pension? With the possible coalitions, it gets real interesting, because there are likely only 2 combinations to form a government. Because of the 5% hurdle, slightly below 50% of votes is enough to form a coalition, and slightly below or above 50% is only possible with these 2 combinations. The union of CDU-CSU with the AfD will be the only coalition with 2 parties. The chancellor candidate of the union set up a firewall against the AfD because he doesn't want to form a coalition with the right-wing party. But they did work together just a few days ago, so the coalition could be possible. And the union with the SPD and the Greens will be the only possible combination with 3 parties. Because of the firewall, the so-called Kenya coalition seems currently like the most likely outcome. If, big if, the liberal FDP gets 5% and is voted into government, a lot more combinations open up. But it doesn't look like it, according to the latest polls. Interesting, isn't it? That the future of Germany could be decided if a small party receives 5% or only 4% of votes. The center-right coalition of the Union and the AfD both want to lower taxes here in Germany for companies. We'll come to your private taxes later on. Both parties also want to lower our energy costs, which I'm sure we all appreciate because Germany has one of the highest energy prices in the world. The difference is how both parties want to achieve this. The AfD wants to go back to nuclear power. The Union writes they want to check if nuclear power makes sense. So with this coalition, we will use fossil fuels for sure, maybe for a while, maybe forever. While the Union wants Germany to be climate neutral by 2045, the AfD doesn't believe that humanity is responsible for climate change. They write in their program, climate change has always existed. It is a complex phenomenon caused by a variety of factors. The question of humanity's contribution to this is scientifically unresolved. When it comes to foreigners, both parties are extremely similar. Expats like you guys who come here to study or to work would be welcome with open arms. I know there's this fear that the AfD would kick out everyone that is not German, but we couldn't find anything in their party program to confirm that. With refugees, asylum seekers, or illegal immigrants, however, it looks different. Both parties want to protect German borders, and everyone that has no legal right to be here and that is not contributing to society with work has to leave. Where both parties couldn't be further apart is when it comes to the war in Ukraine. The AfD wants to sit on a table with Russia and talk things out, just like Trump. The Union wants to continue supporting Ukraine with money and heavy weapons so they can defend themselves. And while the Union wants more Europe, the AfD even wants to consider that Germany leaves the European Union and the Euro. So no more this. When it comes to domestic policy, both parties are surprisingly similar. Both want to restore inner security, which is desperately needed because 40% do not feel safe in public spaces anymore. And janitors in schools have to walk around in stab-proof vests. The only difference may be that the AfD wants more police to restore inner security, and the Union is not giving any specifics in their program what they wanna do. And before we come to the finance part, which I'm sure you guys will love, both parties agree that work must be worth it. So no more Bürgergeld and no more letting society pay for you because you're too lazy to work. Everyone who could work should work. And everyone should be able to support his own life when working. And how do they want to achieve that? Here's how. Everyone would pay lower income tax, and the more you earn, the more taxes you would save. And the AfD goes even further. No more inheritance tax, and no more ground purchasing tax if you buy a property to live in yourself. And because both parties want to lower our tax burden and increase the output we get, in the German government pension for example, my question is, how do they want to pay for all of this? Because both parties don't want to make new debts. They want to keep the Schuldenbremse, which is anchored in our constitution. At least the next coalition, which seems a lot more likely anyway, has a plan for that. The Kenya coalition of the Black Union, the Red SPD and the Greens has naturally less commonalities and more differences because it's 3 parties and not just 2. All 3 parties agree that energy prices need to come down. All 3 parties also agree that Germany should be climate neutral between 2035, that's what the Greens want, and 2045, that's what the Union and the SPD want. And the SPD has also a plan how to finance all of this with the Deutschlandfonds. The government and institutional investors are supposed to invest 100 billion euros to finance important investments for Germany's future. And what you will see going forward is that the SPD and the Greens want more government and less focus on individual freedom and responsibility than the Union or the AfD. All 3 parties also agree that we need more expats, like you guys, to grow our economy. And to grow Perfinex, of course. So if you would like any help in improving your financial future, you can book a free meeting with us right here. And the Greens even want a digital visa that you can get online. Wow! Germany is finally coming out of the Middle Ages. All 3 parties also agree that we need a stronger EU that can keep up with the US, China and Russia. And speaking about Russia, all 3 want to support the Ukraine in the war as well. Where the parties disagree is when it comes to stopping illegal immigration. The Union wants to close German borders. We talked about that. The SPD wants to protect EU borders. And the Greens want open borders with increased help for refugees and asylum seekers. In domestic policy, the differences that could lead to a very unstable government become obvious. Because the only commonality we found is that all 3 parties want to bring back inner security. For almost everything else, the Union wants increased responsibility for the individual, while the SPD and the Greens want a stronger government. They mainly want social justice by increasing the minimum wage, increasing social benefits, and building more affordable housing. If the Kenya coalition gets voted into power, what would that mean for your wallet? Lower income taxes, especially for lower incomes, and higher payouts from the German government pension most of you pay in anyway. And at this point, I think we can all agree that all 4 parties we talked about are just campaigning, big time, trying to get our vote by promising us lower taxes and higher benefits. But is it gonna happen? We'll see. There's a higher chance that the rich get taxed because both the SPD and the Greens are leftish parties. And that's why they also want to get rid of the public and the private health insurance, because that's unequal. They want a unified German healthcare. That is never gonna happen, in my personal opinion. Why not? Because most government employees and politicians are privately insured and they would never ever give that up. Despite the higher differences, my guess is that the Kenya coalition is a lot more likely than the coalition of the Union and the AfD. But no matter what happens over the next weeks, let's hope for these 2 things. Let's hope that Kenya will do a better job than the current government. Like a lot better. Because if not, the votes will drift from the political middle to the left and to the right in the next elections. And let's also hope that our elections are not cancelled like they were in Romania. So we don't have to go on the streets and defend our right for democracy. Because the former European Commissioner Thierry Breton said in an interview that they cancelled the elections in Romania and they will do it here in Germany too if they don't like the results. A sad, sad day for democracy, if you ask me.